Please be seated. I neglected to mention that Amy chose the Hebrew name of Simcha, a wonderful name that means joy and celebration, and chose for her daughter, Nora, who's been a student in our religious school, the name Zara, which is also a very beautiful name, blooming flower it means. So as her daughter grows, we've gotten to see how these two joyous names have been a part of our community, so welcome. We look forward to all of the times that we'll be together and be able to celebrate with you. A few words of Torah before we read the Torah itself. I'll start with a quick story that Rashi tells about Moses as he's coming down the mountain. We know that Moses was said to have this shining face, as if the sun had been glowing, emanating from him. But Rashi says, because there's a comment in the Torah, when Moses comes down the mountain, that he comes unto the people. And Rashi says that what this means is that when Moses came down the mountain, having just received the tablets, and overwhelmed by this great task that's put upon him to teach the people all of the commandments, that he steps off the mountain and he sees the people and he realizes that sacred work is not in him passing along what he knows to them, but rather in listening to each of the people and finding out what their troubles are and finding a way to respond to what their needs are, that only then would he be able to pass along the commandments. I raise this because we're in the midst of a debate, as you all know, I imagine, over this issue 1 vote that's coming up in a few days, and I would remind you that voting is open, and you can go, not this moment, but you can go tomorrow, or not, I don't know, yeah, it's open, I'm sure it's open tomorrow too, but certainly during the week, you can go downtown Akron and go ahead and vote at the Board of Elections. What issue 1 has raised is the same question that's raised in the story of Moses coming down the mountain. Is the law the voice of the few over the many, or is the law the voice of the people? Issue 1 is a question for the state of Ohio as to whether 40% of the people get to decide what 100% of us agree to. It means that we have what has been called essentially a filibuster in our Constitution. That if the state of Ohio, the people of our state, believe in something deeply, that may not be enough. Rabbi Noam Katz had said, not on this issue, but I find it fits. He says, it's a Jewish value that putting the power into the hands of the individual voter holding a ballot, that those serving in government recognize the limits of their own authority. This is what prevents tyrants from rising, from officials from overstaying their welcome, from presidents claiming that they're infallible. The ability for us as an electorate to speak equally as individuals for what we believe is important, and for the majority of those opinions to be the law of the land. This week in the Torah, we're reading the story again of Moses. And in this case, a minority of people, the ones who own cattle, say to Moses, as I'll read in a moment, they say as they're standing on the shores of the Jordan River on the east bank, looking out into what is later to become the Promised Land, they say, Moses, we don't want to go. And Moses, as you might imagine, gets angry. He says, in different words that I'll share, that's not the deal. And he reminds them that there are people who have challenged what the plan was throughout the way, and that they've been punished, and that if they keep in this path, that they too will be punished. However, they explain themselves further, and they say, look, Moses, we will do everything you need us to do to support this people. But then we're going to come back and we're going to live on the east side of the Jordan. And so in some ways, as I think about this issue that's before our state, and we think about this week's Torah portion, Moses' first reaction when they say we don't want to do what everybody is supposed to be doing, his first reaction is to tell them that they are the villains of this story until they explain further and they say, look, we'll go and do what is right for the entirety of the people, but we still want to retain our opinion. Malcolm Gladwell has recently been writing and talking about how easily our country looks at things as black and white, that there are two sides to an issue and there's no gray area in between. And so while I would say that as our movement says and as our board voted earlier this week, we are unified in believing that the Jewish choice on issue 1 is to vote no. We also believe that we can hold a gray area for those who think differently. That doesn't mean that by voting one way or another we believe that the minority should be excluded. The Jewish people have always included the minority. We've never let that opinion go away, and so if 40% of the electorate feels that the decision is not the right decision, we don't erase their opinions. We include them, but we also don't let them erase the other 60%. And so I hope everybody will do their deed and make sure you vote in this election. It's an important election. There's, I believe, only one thing on the ballot. And it'll be quick, nice and quick and short. It won't take you long, but it is important that we get out and we remain, we keep our voices on this issue so that our votes down the road continue to count.
Amen.
We'll continue with our Torah service. I want to invite Ron Letterman